tell me in the topics. She asked me what's my name, I tell her I am Chronic. And I said, girl, tell me what's your name. And she tell me that her name is Jamaica. And I said, smile, girl, smile. Smile for me, Jamaica. And I said, smile, girl, smile. Ooh, Lord, smile for me, Jamaica. And never you cry, here am I. Yeah, I'm here for you, Jamaica. Dry your eyes, girl, smile. Smile for me, Jamaica. Lord, hey, she have a rich history. A beautiful woman with the sweetest gifts. Beautiful sunrise and an evening kiss of a nice sunset on the evening season. But she tell me, say she tired. Tired of the exploit and the liars. She give them reggae, give them beaches, give them flowers and the ferns. All she got is abuse in return. But I say, don't you worry yourself, mama. Hey, Chronics is here to your help, mama. Ooh, I said, no worry yourself, mommy. One thing me, I beg you do for me. And I said, smile, girl, smile. Smile for me, Jamaica. And I said, smile, girl, smile. Hey, smile for me, Jamaica. Never you cry, here am I. Girl, I'm here for you, Jamaica. What must I try? Oh my, that she asks me. And this I want me say, a sweet, sweet Chronics, you forgive them, give them. The one drop beat pan a rhythm. Are you give them bob with a different step in? Are you give them bolt, nobody can run left him. Boy, but see ya, they must see things, say you're out of ideas. You give them art and sweet literature. You gonna make the world see the better picture. I said, no worry yourself, mama. Chronics is here to your help, mama. Hey, I said, no worry yourself, mommy. One thing me, I beg you do. And I said, smile, yeah, smile, boy. Smile for me, Jamaica. And I said, smile, girl, smile. Wah, 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 wah. For me, Jamaica. Never you cry, here am I. Whoa, for me, Jamaica. And I said, smile, boy. Yeah, boy, boy,
The sun shall not smite I by day, nor the moon by night, nor the pestilence that lurks in dark places, nor destruction that wasteth at noonday. The time hath just come.
When I look at where I'm coming from, I know I'm blessed, and I close my eyes and smile. Sometimes I feel like the richest man in Babylon, and I've done my best, so everything's alright inside. Every morning, I rise, I stare at the sun. I know it is a blessing. So when the evening comes, I lift up my eyes to this unblessed old man, with my two hands in the air as far as I can. Yeah, as far as I can. I can, yeah. My two hands in the air as far as I can. Oh, every morning I rise, I stare at the sun. I know it is a blessing. Yeah. Lift up my eyes to this unblessed old man. Sometimes I'm lost and far from home, but I'll find my way. I follow my heart, I know I'll be found someday. While I'm lost, I learn and live. What do you say? Let's have a good time until that day. Oh, every morning I rise. up my eyes to the hills, I'm blessed, oh babe. With my two hands in the air as far as I can. Yeah, as far as I can. I can, yeah. My two hands in the air as far as I can. With my two hands in the air as far as I can. Yeah, as far as I can. I can, yeah. My two hands in the air as far as I can.
The time has just come.
Now this is the version that rock the nation with a solid vibration. You're not far from the station, so take out your identification. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No one ever can understand it. The way the system plans.
Tell me.
There's no hope, no chance, no loophole, no escape for a sufferer man.
I just the way that the Babylon planet. For right to fight each and everyone every day. I don't do follow that little Satan boy. I need to chill myself, the feeling I'll lead you astray.
Still I'm putting up a resistance.
Yeah.
I'm gonna work it out.
work it
You know
out.
I'm putting up a resistance.
And for the children that
gotta
is
work it
depression.
out.
For the things that say no matter what the Babylon say. Some will say that when the children never go astray. All we got to do is to follow my feet and you hear me till big. I'm gonna kneel down on my knees and pray.
Sometimes the pressure make me feel like holler. When every sign says no way out. Breaking my back to make an overtime dollar.
You me tell you.
That just goes from hand to mouth. Still I'm
Putting up some resistance, baby. Me sure we gonna work it out. You hear me tell you. I'm gonna putting up some resistance. You hear me? But I know we gonna work it out, yo. Say I'm putting up some resistance.
I'm gonna work it out.
What me say?
No, I'm
Putting up some resistance. You hear me?
gonna work it out.
Yes, so we not go follow Babylon. Make him and them kingdom go down. So why you not gonna set up a plan? Don't let the money run from hand to hand. You hear me tell you?
No one ever can understand it. The way the system goes.
It's a plan.
I don't know how they do it. It's only one way things flow.
Why don't you stop from envy your brethren? And make him be your friend. Try to make some dollars. Yes, we have to set up a plan. You got to make as much as you can. Then you have to pass it from hand to hand. So not the have to set up a production plan. Then you got to try to farm up the land, yo. Now don't you follow the oppressor man. And try to fight down the Rasta man.
Putting up a resistance now. I'm gonna work it out.
Yes, we're putting up a whole heap of resistance, baby. And we know we gonna work it out. So we got to fight against Babylon. We got to lean for Jaja plan.
Sometimes the pressure make me feel like holler. When every
Good afternoon, fellow cooperators. This meeting of the 58th Annual General Meeting of the JDF Cooperative Credit Union is now called to order. And I'm asking us to take our seat and to focus in our various physical locations or online as we seek to proceed with the meeting. In order for the meeting to go forward, we need to have a quorum. And at this time, I am going to ask the Secretary to verify, Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum? Yes, sir, we do have a quorum. Secretary has indicated by confirmation that we do have a quorum of 108 members registered, either registered online in our physical locations, as well as seated in our auditorium here. But before we can proceed any further, there's an important resolution, a special resolution that must be passed in order to have our annual general meeting being a hybrid meeting as it is set up now. As such, I would like to draw our attention to the special general meeting that should be showing now on your screen and which was also previously provided in hard copy. I will take this opportunity to read as I take you through this special resolution. Jamaica Defence Force Co-Operative Credit Union Limited, special resolution. Whereas Section 11 and Regulation 41 of the Cooperative Societies Act and Regulation provides for the amendment of rules, and whereas Article 22, Regulation 157 allows for amendments to the rules of the JDF Cooperative Credit Union Limited. And whereas Article 11, Rule 102 and Rule 103 are being proposed for amendment in the rules of the JDF Cooperative Credit Union Limited. And whereas it is being proposed that meetings of members may be conducted by attendance at a physical location or by a hybrid meeting or by virtual only. And whereas electronic attendance shall be construed as if the members were present at the physical location where the meeting is being convened. And whereas members attending meetings through electronic media shall constitute part of the quorum required for a legally convened meeting of members of the society. And whereas the Cooperative Societies Amendment Regulation 2021, dealing with the holding of general meetings in cooperative societies, were promulgated on the 15th January 2021. And whereas this credit union has agreed to adopt and accept all the interpretations so ascribed under the said regulations, and intends that all amendments hereunder proposed are to be operational immediately and binding upon members, consequent upon approval at this general meeting of members and subject to the Registrar of Cooperative Societies' immediate certification. Be it resolved that Article 11, Rule 102 and Rule 103, which now reads, 102, the supreme authority in the credit union is vested in the general meeting of members at which every member has a right to attend and vote on all questions. And Rule 103, the first general meeting of members after registration of the credit union shall be called the first annual general meeting and shall have the same powers as are herein given to the annual general meeting. Those rules be amended to read as follows by adding the following additional sentences after the current sentences. References to a meeting shall mean a meeting convened and held in a physical location only, or via virtual only, and or in a hybrid manner through a combination of both a physical and electronic communication system. Members shall be deemed to be present at all meetings for all purposes of the rules, applicable laws, and the Cooperative Societies Amendment Regulations 2021, and said attendance shall be construed to allow the member present in any one of these four to attend and fully participate in any such meeting. A member's participation in the business of a general meeting shall include without limitation the right to communicate, to vote, and to have access in hard copy or electronic form all documents which are required to participate in the business of a general meeting. And participation in such a meeting shall constitute presence in person at such meeting and shall count towards a quorum, and for all other voting processes. C. References to electronic communication system shall include, without limitation, webcasts, video, or any form of conference call systems. That is telephone, video, web, or otherwise, and other communication of any sound, document, and or data. D. If a separate meeting place is linked to the main place of a general meeting by an electronic communication system, such members present at the separate meeting place shall be taken to be present at the general meeting and entitled to exercise all rights as if the member was present at the main physical location. E. All general meetings, including a special or annual general meeting, any adjourned meeting or postponed meeting, may be held as a physical, virtual only, or hybrid meeting. F. A virtual only or hybrid meeting may be held in Jamaica and any part of the world, and at one or more locations as may be determined by the Board of Directors in its absolute discretion. However, the principal place and time of such meeting shall be construed to be held in the jurisdiction of Jamaica. G. Votes, whether by a show of hand or ballot or way of a poll, may be cast through or by electronic means or otherwise, in keeping with the Cooperative Societies Amendment Regulations 2021. H. If voting is to take place at the meeting, there must be reasonable measures in place to verify that every person voting at the meeting by means of electronic communication system is sufficiently identified, and the Secretary shall keep a record of any vote or action taken. The failure or inability of a member to attend or remain in an annual or special general meeting held in a hybrid or virtual only meeting as a result of a mistake or events beyond the control of Jamaica Defence Force Cooperative Credit Union Limited shall not constitute a defect in the calling of the annual or special general meeting, and shall not invalidate any resolutions passed or proceedings taken at that annual general meeting. J. The provision of these rules shall apply with any necessary modification to hybrid meetings and virtual-only meetings. Be it resolved that Article 11, Rule 112, which now reads, at least 7 days before the date of any annual or special general meeting, the Secretary shall post a notice of the meeting in a conspicuous place in the office and shall cause written notice to be placed in the national print and electronic media. Such notice may be communicated to each member via any available electronic medium provided by the member to the credit union. Be amended to read as follows. At least 7 days before the date of any annual or special general meeting, the Secretary shall post a notice of the meeting in a conspicuous place in the head office and at each branch of the credit union, and shall cause written notice to be placed in the national print, electronic media, in person, or mailed to each member at his address or email address that appears in the records of the credit union. Such notice may be communicated to each member via any available electronic medium provided by the member to the credit union. That be amended by adding sub-rules 1 and 2 at Rule 112 to read, where an annual or special general meeting is either virtual only or hybrid meeting, The Secretary shall cause the notice of the meeting to provide instructions for attendance and participation, including voting by members electronically and an electronic link for attendance. 2, where the meeting is held as a hybrid meeting or virtual-only meeting, and during the meeting a number of members participating virtually cease to be able to participate in the meeting at any time and for any period during the meeting in such numbers that the quorum requirement for that meeting is not met, all business transacted at that meeting, including matters put to the vote and any resolution passed, shall be void. Be it resolved that Article 22, Rule 157, amendment to rules, which now reads, these rules may be amended by a resolution of the members at any annual general meeting or a special meeting called for the purpose by a majority of not less than 3/4 of the members present at the general meeting, at which the resolution was proposed, provided that a copy of the proposed amendment, together with a written notice of the meeting, shall have been sent to each member or handed to him in person or published via electronic media at least 7 days before the said meeting. No amendment shall become operative until it has been approved by the registrar in accordance with the Act. That be amended to read, these rules may be amended by a resolution of the members at any annual general meeting or special general meeting called for the purpose by at least 3/4 of these members present, either physically, virtual only, or at a hybrid meeting, provided that a written notice of the meeting has been placed in a conspicuous place at the head office and at each branch of the society and or by electronic means and printed in one daily newspaper at least 7 days before the said meeting. No amendment shall become operative until it has been approved by the registrar in accordance with the Act. That is the resolution being put forward. May I ask someone to move for this resolution? May I have a mover, please? Moved by Major Elida Thompson. May I have a seconder? Seconded by Lieutenant Commander Asion Prescott. Mr. Registrar. Mr. Registrar, I think at this time we are meant to take the vote. For the special resolution. Right, so we have a mover and a seconder for the resolution, and so the resolution is officially moved. We now need to, and seconded, we now need to have the acceptance and passing of the resolution by the majority vote, 75% of the membership or the quorum that is present. So at this time, we will do some tallying of the figures for those who are in favor of the resolution, those who are against the resolution, and those who may wish to abstain. I'm going to ask that we get those votes in from the various sites and the online poll so that we can announce the figures.
a man from trying? I said I wanna know now. What can you do to stop a man from trying? I wanna know, yes, I wanna know now. What can you do to stop a man from trying? I wanna know, said I wanna know now. What can you do to stop a man from trying? Not with that big broad smile.
While we wait to get in the figures for the persons who are remote or online, I'm going to ask those of us who are inside here, those who are in favor of the resolution, just to indicate by a show of the hands so that they can be counted. So those who are in favor of the resolution here, can you show by a raising of your hands, please, so that the registrar representative can do the count from the members. While at the same time, I'm asking the persons who are managing the off-site locations just to tally the votes and send them in as previously arranged. All right, you may lower your hands. Is there anyone who is not in favor of the resolution inside the auditorium? Please show by a raising of your hands. I see none. Is there any abstention? I see none.
Jamaica coming live and direct. Proud to the stepping at the place, number that disrespect. Just I want to get the youths about the
We have the tally? So, ladies and gentlemen, just to explain again, we would need to have this resolution pass in order for us to proceed with the remainder of our meeting, as without the passing of this resolution, our meeting would not be official and could not proceed. Just a word of reminder to our online persons who may have signed in by their individual equipment or devices. For your vote, we just ask you to raise your hand on your instrument so we can count those raised hands on the O system here. Any abstention? Any abstention? Ladies and gentlemen, on information provided from our different locations and verified by our registrar representative, who basically in this matter is our auditors, we have of 108 members registered, for the AGM so far, we have 92 persons who are in favor of the resolution. 16 persons would have abstained, and there were no persons who voted against the resolution. So by virtue of the majority of the members present for this annual general meeting, that being 92, the resolution has been passed. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are therefore properly convened to proceed with the remainder of today's proceedings. And as such, at this time, I'd like to invite the Secretary to read the notice for this 58th Annual General Meeting. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Notice is hereby given of the 57th Annual General Meeting of the Jamaica Defense Force Co-Operative Credit Union Limited to be held on Wednesday, May 26, 2021 at the CMA Auditorium, Upper Camp, Kingston 5, and beginning at 12 noon. Carleen Sutherland, BSc Honors, Warrant Officer Class 1, Secretary. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I'm going to ask us to stand at this time as we invite Major Elida Thompson to bring prayers and God's blessing on this annual general meeting. Major Thompson.
Good afternoon. Let us pray. Most righteous and eternal God, we come to you in gratitude today, giving thanks for fellowship and friendship. Heavenly Father, we ask for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this, our 58th Annual General Meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, Lord. Allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace as we make decisions that might affect the members, staff, and volunteers of the JDF Credit Union. Continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of humanity. Bless each and everyone present and online. We ask these in Jesus' name. Amen. Can you join with me as we repeat the St. Francis of Assisi prayer? Can we have it on the screen, please? Okay. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is error, truth. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
May I ask us to remain standing for a moment? We would have lost a few members since our last annual general meeting. The names are contained on page 94 of your booklet. I ask that we observe a minute of silence in their memory. Thank you. You may be seated. Fellow cooperators, our annual general meeting is an event that I look forward to every year as a volunteer, because it's a time when we, your stewards, get the opportunity to be assessed by you about how well we have carried out the responsibility that you have bestowed on us with the business of the credit union, your business. So I want to take this opportunity to welcome you all to this, our annual general meeting, our 58th annual general meeting, and invite you to participate fully in the discussions and interactions that will take place over the next few hours. And I really do mean few hours. The shorter side of few, of course. Because in those few hours, I'm expecting that we will undertake our business expeditiously and efficiently, so that we can be concluded in the shortest possible time. I therefore ask that you be as specific and precise as possible. Let me make special welcome and recognition of some of our special invited guests and visitors. Let me first of all welcome our Chief of Defense Staff, who I am told is on his way, Lieutenant General Rocky Mead, and our guest speaker, Commodore Antoinette Weems-Corman. Special welcome also to Brigadier Raj Mason, who is a past president of the JDF Credit Union, and who I must say has always taken time out to be with us at our annual general meeting. Welcome to other commanding officers who may be online with us and in other physical locations, and other senior officers of the Jamaica Defense Force. Welcome to you all. Special welcome to Mr. Webb and Mr. Williams from the Office of the Registrar of Cooperative Society, who is here to ensure that we follow the rules and regulation accordingly. Welcome to Ms. Katrina Grant Diagla from the Jamaica Cooperative Credit Union League. And I think Ms. Diagla is also one of those regular visitors at our annual general meeting. We're always welcome and pleased to have you, ma'am. Special welcome to our auditor, Mr. Coy, who is here with us, carrying on duties, but nevertheless, special welcome, sir. And to all our other visiting friends and invited guests, we thank you for your presence. And I'd just like us to stand, please, as the Chief of Defense Staff arrives. Thank you very much, sir. Please be seated. I must remind you, our members, that in order for the meeting to be valid, we are required to maintain a quorum of 100 members. So please make yourself comfortable and stay the course of the meeting. Please allow me at this time to introduce our members of our board of directors. We have our first Vice President, Major Elida Thompson. I'm going to ask each member to stand as I introduce them. Our second Vice President, Lieutenant Commander A.C.N. Prescott. Our Treasurer, Mr. Everton Hay. Our Secretary, Warrant Officer Class 1, Carleen Sutherland. Our Assistant Secretary, Mr. Desmond Pringle. We also have our Assistant Treasurer, Staff Sergeant Shelwar Johnson, and Our director, Mrs. Donna Boland Brown, sorry. Captain Tamika Stewart is also a member of the Board of Directors, but duties has prevented her attendance here today. Thank you very much, Board of Directors. Also seated at the egg table is our Acting General Manager, Mr. Howard Powell. Thank you, Mr. Powell. As we proceed in this annual general meeting, please focus your attention on the parliamentary rules that are on pages 92 and 93 of your booklet for compliance. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to expedite today's proceedings, I am going to ask for a motion for the suspension of the standing orders as printed in your booklet, so that we can move some items forward in the event that we end up losing our quorum before we reach them. So at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion for the suspension of the standing orders. May I have a mover, please? Moved by Mr. Everton here. May I have a seconder? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Seconded by Staff Sergeant Shelroy Johnson. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Fellow cooperators, it is necessary at this time that we take our guest speaker at this juncture. She has kindly taken leave from her daily and highly time-driven task to come and share with us. And she, of course, will be going back to those tasks afterwards. And so we are truly pleased, ma'am, for this kind consideration. Therefore, I'd like to ask at this time that the guest speaker be afforded at this time and invite 001 Dwight Smith to introduce our guest speaker. Mr. Smith?
Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Rocky R. Meade, other senior officers, junior officers, enlisted members of the senior and junior persons of the Jamaica Defense Force, JDF Credit Union family, and our invited guests, good afternoon. Our guest speaker this afternoon, military career spanned 29 years of distinguished service to Jamaica. She is currently serving as the Force Executive Officer and is the highest ranking female in the Jamaica Defense Force. She is a career naval officer trained at the Britannia Royal Naval College, HMS Collingwood, and the U.S. Naval War College. She holds a Master of Science degree with distinction from the University of the West Indies in National Security and Strategic Studies. She is the first female officer to serve in the combatant role in the Jamaica Defense Force, commanding various patrol vessels, the JDF Coast Guard, the Caribbean Military Maritime Training Center, and the Maritime Air and Cyber Command. She has been awarded the Order of Distinction Officer Class for her distinguished military service, the Medal of Honor for Meritorious Service, the Military Commendation Medal, the Medal of Honor for General Service for Operations in the Local Theatre, Long Service and Good Conduct Medal, and the Victoria Diamond Jubilee Medal. She has also received an award for distinguished leadership by the United Nations Women Leadership Initiative in 2015. In May 2019, she was honored by the Women in the Caribbean Maritime Association for her contribution to maritime security in the region. An avid gardener, and also passionate about female empowerment, and provides charitable service to girls throughout the Women Leadership Initiative. She is respected regionally and internationally in her field and has represented the region at various fora. She's a Justice of the Peace for the Parish of Kingston, mother to 15-year-old James, and married to Jonathan. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest speaker this afternoon, Commodore Antoinette Wims Gorman.
Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Meade, Lieutenant Colonel Anglin, President of the JDF Credit Union, and other members of the Board of Directors, representatives from the Jamaica Co-Operative Credit Union, League, and representatives from the Cooperatives of Friendly Societies, other invited guests, management and staff of the JDF Credit Union, fellow members, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to address you on your 58th annual general meeting, at your 58th annual general meeting. I've been asked to focus on the theme, Resilient Together, Marching Forward. This credit union has indeed demonstrated its competence and ultimate resilience over the years as it has been serving its constituents. In the past decade, the credit union has received 8 awards as a top credit union in the large category and has grown its net worth by 308% from $729.8 million to $2.97 billion. Congratulations. You've done this whilst increasing your membership from 7,841 in 2010 to 11,700 plus now in 2020. The success of the credit union, whilst credited to its astute management team, is buttressed by the engagement of and service to its membership. And this successful formula is a good measure of what resilience entails. And this given, I sound different. This given varying economic circumstances globally and locally. Resilience indicates an ability to withstand or recover quickly from difficult conditions by bonding together. And resilience also has been described as a capacity for positive outcomes despite challenging or threatening circumstances. The behavioral component of resilience enables one to remain effective and able to focus on relevant tasks and goals and carry them out. This is particularly important for the constituents of this credit union, given the critical nature of the role we play in the society. It is, of course, no secret that the larger percentage of the membership are active service members. When there are national crises of any kind, the JDF is the go-to organization. It is with this in mind, therefore, that I find the theme Resilient Together quite apt for our circumstances. In times of trials and crises, membership and the credit union must be in a position to focus and achieve the task at hand. The ability to recover quickly and do it together is also very important. It is instructive to note the performance of the credit union, despite the impact of various external shocks to the economy and financial sector over the years. The credit union certainly weathered those storms, providing services to its membership while continuing to innovate and grow. What makes the credit union resilient? I would argue that a possible answer to that question could be found in the subtle difference between a credit union and a bank. Credit unions tend to have lower fees, better interest rates on saving accounts and loans, while for banks, their mobile apps, their online technology tend to be more advanced, with attendant overt or hidden costs. Banks often have more branches and ATMs nationwide. However, this is offset by the fact that credit unions are known for providing better customer service, while large national banks tend to have stricter rules and less flexibility in decision-making. Banks are owned by investors and operated for profit, and banks must make a profit for their investors. Anyone is eligible to open an account with a bank, including individuals or companies. The customer do not have a vote or a say in how a bank is run, unlike a credit union, which has a membership. At a bank, you're a customer. At the credit union, you are a member. As the JDF Credit Union marches forward with innovation and enhanced services for its members, it is important that there's active engagement, communication, and feedback to inform the process. It is also important for the credit union to maintain a suitably qualified management team that is as flexible and agile in its function as its membership requires and meets all the requirements of the financial sector regulations. It is also important for the members to be financially responsible and prudent as we access the service of the credit union. As a relatively senior service member, too often I've had the occasion to become aware of service members who have found themselves in dire straits financially because of lack of financial intelligence. Whilst the responsibilities of military commanders include the provision of guidance to our subordinates, it is also important for the credit union to ensure that the members being served do not access financial services from the institution beyond their ability to sustain. As we look or march forward, I would like to take this opportunity to encourage the membership to seek out and employ sound financial planning in order to achieve their goals. It is important for every individual to consciously decide to remove barriers to your own success. In order to do this, you must be able to determine what you want your success to look like. Success looks different for each of us. It is often defined by money, jobs, titles, and possessions. I believe that a successful person lives with a purpose and uses his or her strength to its full potential. Success is about the journey and not the destination, and that journey is successful when you are your best and you achieve your goals and there are no regrets. There are many service and ex-service members and civilians who have leveraged this credit union to achieve numerous goals. I certainly have no regrets having accessed the service of the credit union over the years. There are many barriers to success that we could discuss. However, I'll use a few moments to focus on the financial barriers to success given this forum. Financial success has to be driven. It doesn't happen by accident. You therefore have to set up an environment that will help you to succeed. With respect to financial management, the right environment for success is one which sees individuals being well informed. Take the time to educate yourself on the different types, terms, services, investments, and legal regulated opportunities for growing wealth. Seek professional advice and certainly live within your means. Be patient and smart about investing, borrowing, and spending. Before you can properly develop a financial plan, it is critical that you understand your current living expenses based on your current lifestyle. It is hard to make incremental changes unless you understand where you are right now. First, define and prioritize your goals, and this will help put financial decisions into perspective. Some of the important characteristics of a sound financial plan are simplicity, foresight, flexibility, and anticipation of contingencies. Sound financial planning is necessary for your individual success. Make it simple by starting with a budget, but you must employ foresight, which means think about the future as you plan for today. Do not let perfection be the enemy of good. Your budget does not need to be perfect. Life has a way of throwing us curveballs, so do not let perfection keep you from getting started. Remain flexible. There should always be a degree of flexibility so that your financial plan can be adopted with a minimum of delay to meet changing conditions in the future, as you can't expect to foresee every obstacle in your financial future. Keep a rolling budget and forecast, which will keep you on top of the positive and negative fluctuations that are bound to happen, and make sure you balance your short-term and long-term goals. Whilst it is tempting to fixate on the upcoming fiscal year, it is critical to understand your long-term goals so that as you plan for today, you're always making progress towards tomorrow. That progress can be done together as members of this credit union. As I leave these few words with you, I want to finally urge the board and management to continue to innovate and deliver quality services and financial products to the membership. I also encourage the membership to exploit the benefits of the credit union, engage in feedback and conversations that will enable the credit union to serve you better. Congratulations to the JDF Credit Union on its achievements so far, and thank you for your service as a member, and best wishes to the union for continued success.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Short, sweet, and spicy, and to the point. And I don't know about anyone else, but what I mainly took away from that, and which I'm encouraging all of us to take away, that question that was asked: what do you want your success to look like? And I'm sure each and every one of us have a different perception of what our success should look like. But whatever it is, the assurance is that the JDF Credit Union can help to get you there, all right? And the Commodore would have spoken from personal experience, and we thank you very much again, ma'am, for some very sound words. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Curlew Duncan to make a presentation. Ma'am, if I could ask you to come back to the podium, ma'am, please.
General Meade, other officers, fellow corporators, good afternoon. The task is mine to say thank you to Commodore Gorman. Commodore, we want to say thank you for being here with us today, for sharing with us your insight as to how we can continue with growth at the JDF Co-Operative Credit Union. The president said it well. It was short, sweet, and so we have learned a lot. Even though we know some things, we want to be reminded of them as we go along from day to day. And so we want to say thank you on behalf of the board of directors, on behalf of the credit committee members, on behalf of the supervisory committee members, the management and staff of the JDF Co-Operative Credit Union. We want to say thank you for being here, and we wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Duncan. We are still in the suspension of the standing orders, ladies and gentlemen. And again, as a reminder, in order not to lose our quorum and not be able to take some very important decisions, we're going to move some business up. I would have indicated the guest speaker before. The other items that I'd like to move up at this point so that we can get that out of the way while we still have a quorum is the business of our elections. And so at this time, we'll be doing our elections, and I'm going to invite Mr. Webb from the Office of the Registrar and Cooperative Society to take us through the election process.
Volunteers, members, staff, and special invited guests, good morning. Sorry, good afternoon. Let me take this opportunity to congratulate the Committee of Management and the board for staging the 57th Annual General Meeting of JDF Cooperative Credit Union Limited. 58. The nominating committee report can be found on pages 86 through to 87. For the proceeding of this election, I will ask for nominations from the floor. If there are nominations coming from the floor, members should raise hands, wait to be identified, thereafter state your name and put forward any matter regarding the elections. The credit union has amended their rules, which allow the membership to pre-select persons to serve on the respective statutory committees. On the board of directors, we have 3 persons retiring, and we have 6 persons recommended. I will proceed with the board of directors. Retiring, Major Helida Thompson, Staff Sergeant Shelroy Johnson, and Mr. Everton Hay. Recommended, Major Othniel Blackwood, Lieutenant Dion Ellis, Staff Sergeant Shelroy Johnson, Mr. Everton Hay, Mrs. Sonia Beaton Bogle, and Mrs. Shakira Marshall Fender. I am going to ask that out of the 6 persons recommended by the nominating committee report, nominating committee, we will elect 3 persons out of the 6. So let me repeat. The 6 persons that have been recommended can be found on page 86, and there will be 3 persons that will serve on the vacant positions. That's on the board of directors. All right, so I'm being informed that who has been withdrawn from the board? From the ballot. Okay. So is that person on the ballot for the board of directors? Could you say the name, please? Yeah. I'm not seeing her in the book. Okay, Mrs. Sonia Beaton Bogle. So I've been informed that this person initially recommended has now been withdrawn. And such, the ballot that will be distributed, you should not cast a vote beside her name because she's unavailable to serve. So based on these names, I'm going to ask for the ballots to be distributed and for a tally of the votes to be taken at the different respective locations. And persons online can indicate their preference by whatever mechanism the online platform enables. So I hope that persons online will be allowed to vote and to cast their vote. So I'm going to ask the different locations at this moment in time to distribute the ballots, and for the moderator or the station manager to collect those ballots, and that we can have a tally, and all elections will be determined by majority votes. So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes that we can issue the ballots and we can collect it and we can proceed with the other committees. right, so the Board of Directors ballot will have 6 names, and Sonia Beaton Bogle has been withdrawn. So we have 5 names on the ballot, and we need 3 persons will be duly elected to serve. So kindly indicate by asterisk, a tick, the 3 persons you wish to serve on the Board of Directors. So I trust that the outstationed, the other designated areas, that the ballots have been distributed and the voting is taking place. And as soon as the voting process has concluded, kindly to communicate those figures so I can tally the numbers and determine who have been duly elected to serve on the Board of Directors. All right, so I'm being guided. I'm going to ask that the credit and the supervisory ballots be equally distributed, and that we select for the credit committee. You will have 2 persons retiring and 4 persons recommended. So for the credit committee, Captain Calvin Dryden, Mr. Hamroy Roberts, those are the persons retiring, and the persons recommended are Captain Calvin Dryden, Lieutenant Dion Ellis, Mr. Hamroy Roberts, Miss Michelle Mackenzie. So out of those 4 names that you will see on your credit committee, we're asking you to indicate by the symbol of a tick or an X beside the 2 persons who would be duly elected to serve on the credit committee. And I'm going to ask that the supervisory committee ballot be also distributed. And we have 7 persons retiring. And we have 9 persons recommended. Or 8 persons. So Ms. Sonia Beaton Bogle has been withdrawn from all ballots. So let me just repeat. On the supervisory committee, we have 7 persons retiring. That committee have 7 vacant positions, and the tenure is for 1 year. So recommended are 8 persons. And we are asking for you to select 7 persons to be duly elected to serve on the supervisory committee. So I'm going to ask that the ballots be collected in a physical space and that the votes that are being done online, that those votes be tallied. So I'm asking the managers and the station supervisors to collect the votes in a physical space so we can conclude the voting process for the board, supervisory, and credit committees. Okay, I'm being reminded to remind you again that the persons who are online, right, your votes are needed as well. So kindly use the platform to cast your votes for the persons who you wish to serve on the board, the credit, and the supervisory committees. So if the voting process online is concluded and in the physical space the ballots have been collected, I do believe that the election process has been completed. I'm going to hand it over to the chairman. And in the interim, while we collect the votes and to determine all the persons that have been duly elected, I would not want to detain the meeting any further. So I'm going to hand over the proceedings to the chairman for the meeting to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. And so while we continue to wait for the returns, for the ballots to be returned so that they can be tallied and the results announced, I will continue to encourage those of us who are off-site in the various locations and those persons who are signed in on their devices, please to indicate your ballots, your choice of your selection for the board of directors, the credit committee, and the supervisory committee. The list of persons can be provided. If you are not sure, just send a chat, and so we can respond so that you will be reminded of the list of persons who are on the ballot for the various areas. But we require that you vote and send in your vote accordingly. So as I said, while we wait on those return, we're going to proceed with the meeting. And as such, at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion for the resumption of the standing orders, or of the agenda, rather. Moved by Major Elida Thompson, seconded by Mr. Everton A. Those in favor say aye. Ladies and gentlemen, the minutes of the 57th Annual General Meeting is contained in your magazine, and I will now invite the Secretary to come and do the corrections to that minutes. Madam Secretary. Be guided here.
The minutes having previously circulated, may I have a motion that it be taken as read?
So
Moved by Colonel Anglin. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Mrs. Donna Brown. We'll now take corrections beginning on page 2. Any corrections on page 2? Page 3. Page 4. And finally, page 5. Any online corrections? Mr. Reid, can you confirm if there are any corrections online? There be no corrections. May I have a motion for the confirmation and acceptance of the minutes of the 58th Annual General Meeting of the JDF Co-Operative Credit, the 57th Annual General Meeting of the JDF Co-Operative Credit Union. Motion. Motion moved by Lieutenant Commander Prescott. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by W1 Dwight Smith. Those in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. Any against? Any abstention? The ayes have it. We'll now move to matters arising from the minutes. Are there any matters arising from the minutes? Matters on page 2. Check online for me, Mr. Reid. Page 3. Matters on page 4. Page 5. There being no matters arising from the minutes, I thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. So we'll just proceed very quickly as I really don't want us to lose the quorum that we have. Fellow corporators, ladies and gentlemen, we are now at that point where the stewardship of the business of the credit union, and we are required to report to you about how we have undertaken that responsibility over the last year or so. We acknowledge that we will be judged by you on our performance, but let me assure you that despite the results of our achievements for 2020, you had an extremely dedicated and committed team of volunteers, management and staff who would have worked assiduously despite the demands of our substantive job as far as the volunteers are concerned, to ensure that the business of the credit union is carried on in a timely and efficient manner. So without any further delay, I'd like to invite your attention to the report of the Board of Directors, which may be found in your report and which will also be shown on screen. That report having been previously circulated, may I have a motion for it to be taken as read? Moved by W1 Colin Sutherland, seconded by Sergeant Andre Burnett. Those in, sorry, we don't need to move the high. All right. It is that time again, as I said, that your board of directors account for its stewardship. For the year 2020. And what a year it was. Never did we imagine that what took place would have occurred. It started with an economy that offered great expectation, and with that some targets were set that seemed achievable with effort and determination. However, we were hit by that novel COVID-19 pandemic, and that occurrence changed the entire operational landscape. Economically, Jamaica suffered a 10.2% GDP decline. After 7 consecutive years of growth. Tourism also grinded to a halt for the first half of 2020, with declines of up to 53.5%. The transportation sector, the airlines and the airports were closed, thereby restricting transportation, movements, exports, import, etc. Inflation was recorded at a 5.1%, and the unemployment rate rose to 10%. We saw many persons losing their jobs, their businesses, their livelihood. But while all that was happening, the military was not affected from job loss. And some of our members experienced some amount of strain, some constraint, and that affected the outcome of our credit union business. Strategically, and in keeping with the intent of HQ JDF as part of its rezoning of Upper Camp, the credit union is expected to relocate from its present location to occupy the location being where the military pay office currently is. This will require the construction of a new credit union building, as that building is deemed not suitable for our purpose. And so we had intended to commence a construction in the third quarter of 2020. However, a number of hurdles proved difficult to be resolved, and that placed a delay on our efforts. We are now, however, at the stage where that project is advanced, it's on a new schedule, and we had targeted to start construction in July. That, of course, is subject to a number of approvals coming through in due course. We were also able to roll out a mobile unit to attend to some of the needs of our members, particularly those members who are off-site and as far as St. James. As it relates to our target, we forecasted to 28.94% more value to you, the members. We had set a target of increasing our asset by 26.8%. Membership should have grown by 13.31%. Our loan portfolio, we were looking to increase that by 22.1%, and our saving portfolio by 28.13%. These targets were predicated primarily on the year being normal at the beginning of 2020. And those were also taken in conjunction with JDF forecasted recruiting targets holding true. At the end of 2020, however, the results saw some different results. Value added only increased by 10%. We only achieved a 14% increase in our asset, 12% increase for new memberships, and our loan portfolio would have only increased by 4.72%. There was also an increase in our savings portfolio by 15.27%. So while it was a unique year, much comfort can be taken that our operating expenses were contained well below the standard 8%, coming out at 6%. And our surplus saw a 29% increase over the previous year. It should be noted that our 29 surplus was in and of itself a reduction over the previous year. So there's an upturn for 2020, despite it being a pandemic year. COVID-19 necessitated a change in the disposition of this credit union staff, with a remote work policy being implemented. Of course, this was not unique to the JDF Credit Union. Approximately half of the credit union's business was carried out by the staff working from home. From all accounts, management did extremely well, as there was no member of staff that contracted the virus from the office. This work from home methodology was new to us, and it became a learning experience and a learning opportunity, as it forced us to take more of the business of the credit union online, which also required greater knowledge and use of technology. Some members adjusted and embraced the online push, but there were significant numbers of our membership that still preferred to come into the credit union physical space to do their business. And of course, we had to accommodate them. But this online push also required new policies and procedures, and these were implemented. They proved challenging and continues to challenge even now, as technology changes almost on a daily basis. Virtual meetings became the order of the day. And these types of virtual meetings have now become almost a norm. We had our annual retreat in mid-September last year, and this was a modified in-house one-day retreat. We continue, ladies and gentlemen, to push the envelope with ambitious targets as we seek to better serve the membership who continue to be strategically employed across Jamaica. In that respect, we have embarked on a new customer service mantra, and that is members first. Where in everything we do as a credit union, we want to put you, our members, at the forefront. The pandemic also affected a number of meetings that would normally take place annually. Historically, our annual general meeting would normally be held in April. This had to be rescheduled to October due to the restrictions imposed by the government under the Disaster Risk Management Act. There was no mass meeting for AGM for the local movement, nor for the Caribbean Confederation of Credit Unions conferences, nor for the World Conference of Credit Unions. These are all done through virtual means. And as I would have said before, our board meetings have now adopted the flexibility of virtual attendance. The year ended with the resignation of our former general manager, Mrs. Patricia Tomlinson, and she was a long-standing member, having managed the credit union for approximately 14 years. She served us well. She served us well. Under her management, we were able to win the Renford Douglas Credit Union of the Year trophy for 4 consecutive years, and overall for 5 years. We express thanks to Mrs. Tomlinson as we continue to wish her well in her future endeavors. But as we look forward, ladies and gentlemen, it is our intention to break ground for a new office for the credit union very soon, subject to all the approvals being granted. We have finalized the design for the new building, and all the preliminary submissions and arrangements have been initiated, and so we are waiting. And this is being managed by a building committee that is in place. We want to indicate to you, our members, that this is a very costly venture, but we expect to commence installation, commence construction in the very near future. We also expect to commence installation of a branch, a small branch at Burt Barks in St. James, Montego Bay, St. James, in August of this year, subject to no further delay in the construction work that is taking place down there. So if all goes well, we are expecting to establish a small branch in Burt Barks come August of this year. We are also recruiting staff members from the area who will be working at that location to continue to serve our members from that side. We are ready as a board of directors and management to continue to initiate our responsibilities on your behalf. Fellow corporators, the long-standing Bank of Jamaica regulations for credit unions are now upon us. The finance minister has indicated that they will be enacted in this financial year. But the preparations for this regulation has long been undertaken by your board of directors and management, so that we will be able to satisfy all the requirements, and we are confident that we will be able to satisfy all the requirements under this regulation to obtain the required license to continue our existence and our operation. Let me hasten to say that obtaining our license and being regulated by the BOJ will be a seamless occurrence that will not have any direct impact on you, the membership, as your board continues to provide the quality service that you so rightly deserve. We have set some even more ambitious targets for 2021. We want to achieve value added in terms of the value that we give back to you, the member, of 59.2%. We want to increase assets by 48%, loans by 64%, and savings by 51%. These are very ambitious targets and requires you, our membership, continuing to do business and more business with your JDF credit union. COVID is still with us, but we are confident that our targets are achievable. We are advanced in the contracting of a new general manager whose employments we are targeting, or we were targeting for the 1st of May, but certainly by the 1st of July, we are expecting for a new general manager to be in place. That person, we are expecting, will bring some new insights and energy into our strategies and operation, taking us to higher heights. Let me, on behalf of the Board of Directors, thank you for allowing us to lead this organization. We remain committed to you and the responsibility that have been given to us, which we humbly accept. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So the report which would have been presented, I now invite any questions, queries on the report. Are there any questions or any queries to the report? Are there any online queries? I'm told there are no online queries. I see no one indicating a desire to ask any questions. So there be no questions or query to the Board of Directors report. May I have a motion for the report to be accepted? Moved by Mr. Amrai Roberts, seconded by Mr. O'Neill Shirley. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay or indicate nay. Any abstention to the report, online or otherwise? I see or hear none. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, as we move along, I would like to invite the Treasurer at this point to come and manage the presentation of the auditors and the Treasurer's report. Mr. Treasurer.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, fellow cooperators, friends, members from the registrar, members from the league. At this point, I'll ask Mr. Saxon, Mr. Coy, sorry, from the auditing firm HBL Mayor Russell to present the report of the auditors. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Good afternoon, members of the credit union. Auditor's report is on page 24 of the annual report. Independent auditor's report to the Registrar of Cooperative Societies, re Jamaica Defense Force Cooperative Credit Union Limited, a society registered under the Cooperative Societies Act. Report on the audit of the financial statements or opinion. We have audited the financial statements of Jamaica Defense Force Cooperative Credit Union Limited, the credit union, which comprises statements of financial position as at December 31, 2020, statement of income and expenditure, statement of other comprehensive income, statement of changes in equity, and statement of cash flows for the year then ended, and notes to the financial statements, including a summary of significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the accompanying financial statements give a true and fair view of the financial position of the credit union as at December 31, 2020, and of its financial performance and its cash flows for the year then ended, in accordance with international financial reporting standards and the requirement of the Corporate Societies Act. Basis of our opinion, we conducted our audit in accordance with international standards on auditing. Key audit matters identified during the audit is the loans and losses, expected credit losses on the loans. Conclusion on that, we assessed and tested and designed the design and operating effectiveness of the controls over the impairment data and calculations. These controls included those over identification of which loans and advances were impaired. We determined we could rely on the controls for the purposes of our audit. The criteria we used to determine if there is objective evidence of impairment included default or delinquency in interest or principal payments, concessions granted to a borrower that would have not otherwise be considered due to the borrower's financial difficulty. We tested the completeness of management's listing of potentially impaired loans by reperforming the process using management impairment criterion. Based on the testings, no adjustments were considered necessary. Our responsibility, we evaluated the performance of the loan portfolio subsequent to the end of the reporting period to identify significant adjusting subsequent events and did not identify any such events. Auditors responsible for the audit of the financial statements. Our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statement as a whole are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion. And then last page, which is on page 29, the report on additional matters as required by the Co-Operative Societies Act. We have obtained all the information and explanations which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purpose of our audit. In our opinion, proper accounting records have been maintained so far as appears from our examination of those records, and the financial statements which are in agreement therewith give the information required by the Co-Operative Societies Act in the manner so required. The engagement partner on the audit resulting in this independent auditor's report is Sixto Coy, signed HLB Miroso Chartered Accountants, Kingston, Jamaica, April 14, 2021. Thank you. Mr. Treasurer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Coy. Fellow cooperators, our auditors have given us a clean bill of health. Nothing out of order. So I'll quickly run through my report for the year ended December 31st, 2020. Just to tell you as well that while I'm here, I'll also be moving two resolutions quickly. Okay, so for 2020, an overview of the economy would suggest that the country's economic performance continues to be measured by the Economic Program Oversight Committee, otherwise called EPOC. By the close of the first quarter of 2020, we had the pandemic, and this affected Jamaica and the entire world at large. Inflation for the year was 5.1%, and the Jamaican dollar closed at approximately 150 to $1 US. Crime also continues to hamper our economy and our country. And the government last year had to suspend the SOEs. Performance of the credit union for the year ending December 2020 saw the credit union doing another good year's performance, where we would have exceeded 55% of our major targets. And I wish to commend the management, staff, and volunteers for their efforts. And I want us to give them a round of applause for weathering the storm through COVID. So can we remain compliant with the regulatory offerings. We also continue to offer our members a wide range of products and services at the most affordable rates in the movement. Very, very affordable rates. Asset base stood at 2.97 billion, growth of 14%. Loan portfolio increased by 3%. And as the President would have mentioned earlier, we were off target, but we'll make up for it this year. Right, cooperators, management, we're going to make up for it. All right, Mr. Powell? Savings growth of 302 million, or 16%. Capital growth of $60 million, or 8%. Moving quickly, we have a table here, and sometimes it's good to express your performance in a tabular form. It's more like a diagram, and a diagram is worth more than 1,000 words. So when we look at our income side, income from loans, we had a growth of 5%, which resulted in 12.449 million. Investment income increased by 89%, and I would like us to give a round of applause for this achievement, because we have seen this income stream getting some more buoyant as the years go by. So can we? On the flip side though, the non-interest income, which would have been our fees and charges, saw a decline of 15%, as we did not perform as well in the area of our loans. But this year we plan to, make up for that. With respect to the expense side, personnel saw an 11% increase. So despite the challenges with COVID, we still value our staff. We still, despite some cuts, we're still able to have that increase on the personnel side. General overheads saw a 9% increase because we're managing our expenses. Interest expense increased by 4%, $2.412 million. Again, good management in place to keep expenses down. And the area of affiliation and representation saw a decrease of 36%, because at somewhere midway in the year, we said that we need to cut some expenses and make some decisions, and it ended that we had a 36% decrease in that area of expense. Marketing also saw a decrease of 43%. And we ended the year with a surplus of $83.013 million, or 8%. The other table, the other slide shows the graph of the financial highlights. Our total income, expenses, and net profit. In my estimation, looking at this graph, it shows that there is some stability. 2017 was a very good year in terms of surplus. I think it was about $96 million. So you would have seen, there's some sign of stability here when you look at this graph. Going forward, we continue to prepare for the BOJ readiness. We've already adopted IFRS 9 and other new reporting requirements include COVID-19 rent-related concessions related to IFRS 16. So as we anticipate the tabling of the amendments to the Cooperative Societies Act, we are committed to remaining compliant as the regulators dictate. The President and Chairman mentioned that we will be doing some things to better reach our members. We'll be doing a building. And when we look at the increase in the force in the Western region, we found it necessary to put a permanent office in the West, starting with Barracks in Montego Bay. So we have been down there on about 3 occasions, and we have identified an area, of course, through the permission of the headquarters, JDF, and discussion with the Engineer Regiment and the CO for the 2nd Battalion. We have identified a good area to put up our Western officer branch. We also continue to lead the charge in the financial education of our members, and especially the younger ones. In the year ahead, we will seek to equip our members with the knowledge and skills necessary for them to manage their financial affairs. As I close, I want to acknowledge and to give thanks to the team of volunteers, management, and staff who collectively and consistently takes responsibility for the success of our credit union. On behalf of the Board of Directors, volunteers, management, and staff of the credit union, I hereby extend sincere gratitude to you, our invaluable members, as your demonstration of confidence, loyalty, and trust in these credit unions have not waned. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your patience and attendance. Are there any questions for me on the report? Going once, going twice, going thrice. Okay, with no questions, I therefore ask for someone to move a motion with a seconder to accept my report. Desmond Pringle, seconded by Edward Price. Mr. Price, forgive me, is the mass is sort of, you know? Okay, those in favor? Aye. Those against? Any abstention? Ayes have it. I move now on to the resolutions. Resolution 1 is the surplus that we appropriate each year. And we have for this distribution 68.43 million. That's on 30. All right. Okay, so each year we would have appropriate our surplus in various areas. So we have, for dividend, we're looking at 5.585 million. That's the reserve, and the reserves very critical to the credit union's safety. And this year we'll be putting $16.6 million. And as we anticipate the BOJ regulations, we are putting another $10 million towards our reserve, because the BOJ may ask us to send some money there to keep as reserve. So we are very proactive in our doings. Honorary payment of 3.826, treasure chest scholarship 1.5, building reserve, and as mentioned earlier, we need to boost up our building reserves to help us to construct our building and to put up our office in Montego Bay. So total amount of distribution, $50.5 million. and we are left with an undistributed amount of $17.09 million. I would ask the guidance of the registrar representatives, if we could move both motions en bloc. Can we? Thank you very much. Resolution 2, according to our rule book, Rule 143, the power to borrow. And it reads, proposal for fixing the maximum liability up to December 2021. And corporate, as we do this every year, you give us that permission because the Supreme Authority is vested in you, and you allow us this sort of alacrity for the rest of the year. And it says, the Board of Directors may incur liability in the voluntary shares, deposits, and/or loans from any source on such terms of payment and/or security, provided that the total liability shall not exceed a ratio of 16 times the society's capital. Our capital is approximately $801 million. We have never borrowed, I think in my time on this board, I think the most we have ever borrowed is about $400 million in one particular year. So this is a guideline from our regulators, which we abide by each year. Are there any questions on these two resolutions? Any questions, any queries, any clarity? There being none, could you guide us again, Mr. Registrar? Do we need to count? Okay. Thank you for that. Those in favor? The resolution say aye. Aye. Those against? No nays? Any abstention? No? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. I'll hand over back to the President.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. And we continue to move very speedily along. At this time, I'd like to invite the representative from the Credit Committee to present the Credit Committee's report. Mrs. Shakira Marshall-Fender.
Good afternoon, everyone. A warm welcome is extended to everyone at this time. The year 2020 indeed was a very challenging year. Diverse methods were explored in order to consistently provide our members with the most suitable, efficient, and effective service. The Credit Committee met at least once per week to review, analyze, and examine applications or other reports as required. The committee is focused on adhering to the policies regarding risk management and satisfying members as much as possible. Delinquency was a point of discussion, and members experiencing difficulties should make every effort to contact the credit union to explore suitable available options. During the year 2020, the committee reviewed 173 applications that exceeded the limits of the senior management of the credit union. There has been a major decline in the economy that impelled a low aggregate demand, which resulted in non-performing loan portfolios and a delinquency ratio of 3.85%, an increase of the 2.72% in 2019. Loan applications approved by the committee for the year in review was 222.9 million compared to 381.3 million in 2019. Motor vehicle and debt consolidation loans hold the highest dollar value of loans disbursed during the period in review. The Jamaica Defense Force Cooperative Credit Union fosters financial stability and discipline among members. Hence, the committee is focused on monitoring credit risk and guiding members in improving their debt service ratio. The Credit Committee extends appreciation to our members and acknowledges the support of our Board of Directors, Supervisory Committee, the management and staff of the credit union. On the whole, the credit union continues to monitor the pandemic and be guided by our regulators and health officials on the best methods to maintain the safety of our members. The pandemic has significantly impacted the credit union and our members, but we will continue to overcome our challenges by being resilient together, marching forward. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Any questions or queries? Any questions or queries? Okay. May I have a motion of acceptance for the report? So moved. Gawain Brown. Seconded? Oh, Everton here. Everton here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Marshall Fender, for the Credit Committee's report. It's time now for the supervisor report, and at this time, I'd like to invite the chair, Sergeant Gawain Brown, to present the report.
Good afternoon, my fellow corporators. The report of the Supervisory Committee is contained on page 90 of your booklet. May I have a motion to take the report as being read? May I have a seconder, please? All right, moved by Mr. Desmond Pringle. May I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Ms. Marsha McGowan. Thank you. All right, the Supervisory Committee consists of 7 members, which were duly elected by you, the members, at our last annual general meeting. Just to reintroduce you to those persons, first we have 001 Dwight Smith, Staff Sergeant Sherlon Campbell, Staff Sergeant Andrew Claar, Sergeant Ricardo Russell, Sergeant Gawain Brown, Sergeant Andre Burnett, Mr. O'Neill Shirley. Throughout the year 2020, the Supervisory Committee carried out its responsibility by continuously having oversight over the management or the operations of the JDF Cooperative Credit Union on behalf of your Board of Directors. Despite the inimical effects of COVID-19, the Supervisory Committee still managed to execute over 40 audits. And just to name a few, we conducted random cash counts. We monitored also the property, plant, and equipment. We looked at staff emolument. Also, we looked at the tax compliance of the credit union. With reference to the above audits, the policies and procedures were adhered to in all material respect. In addition to these audits, we also conducted special investigations. A total of 20 loans formed the basis of such special investigation. The result of such investigation, we were satisfied that the related policies and procedures were adhered to in all material respect in the granting of such loans. To conclude, on behalf of the entire supervisory committee team, I want to express my sincere gratitude to you, the members of the JDF Cooperative Credit Union, for having granted us the opportunity to serve in this rather important capacity. Additionally, we want to express our gratitude to the Board of Directors for having supported us throughout this period and given us guidance. Also, we want to express our sincere gratitude to the management and staff of the credit union for having facilitated us throughout the year 2020, with specific emphasis on the internal auditor, who is always willing to provide assistance to the supervisory committee. We thank you all. Are there any questions at this point? May I have a motion to accept the report of the supervisory committee? So moved by 001 Dwight Smith. May I have a second, please? Seconded by Ms. Dana Brown. I couldn't see it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sergeant Brown. And on behalf of the Board of Directors and the general membership, I also would like to add our gratitude and thanks and recognition and appreciation to the Supervisory Committee, a very important committee in the business of the JDF Credit Union, for the stalwart work that would have been undertaken throughout the year as you continue to hold us true to our rules, our regulations, our policies, our practices. And for the new committee that is to be elected, there is no lesser expectation, both from your board of directors and I'm sure from the general membership. So thank you again. Mr. Registrar, are you ready with the outcome of the vote? So while we await the outcome of the results of the election, it is at that point, we are at that point now where we can take any other business. Are there any other business? I just want to continue to encourage you, our membership, those of you who are sitting in the auditorium, those of you who are at the various off-site locations, and those who are signed in virtually on your individual devices, that remind you that the JDF Credit Union is your organization. Our guest speaker would have alluded to it earlier. You are not just members of the JDF Credit Union. You are owners of this institution. And so whatever we do is because of your input, and it is because this is what you want. And so we continue to encourage you as members and owners that you continue to utilize the offerings that are on the table in terms of the various products and services that we have to engage you with. It is changing times, it is difficult times, technology is moving, and so we encourage you to talk to us, tell us where you think we are falling short, what additional products, services that we could put in place to better facilitate you, to prevent you from having to go elsewhere to seek business from our competitors. I remind you that when you go to our competitors, they benefit, and their returns from your business doesn't come back to you. But when you utilize the services of the JDF Credit Union as owners and as members, the benefits that is achieved from your business comes right back to you. And so you would have heard me mentioned earlier in my report about the value added. This is the measure by which you can hold us accountable in terms of the benefits and the value that we give back to you. Okay? So the more business you do with us and with your credit union is the more benefit that you can achieve. And it is our intent as an organization to continue to increase those benefits to you, our members. Our new mantra, our rallying theme, as I would have mentioned also, speaks to members first. Members first. Behind that, the meaning is that whatever we do, it is with you in mind being at the forefront of our activities, at the forefront of our decisions. And so we continue to encourage you to utilize the services, products, and offerings of the JDF Credit Union, your credit union. Mr. Registrar? As the registrar continues, and in an effort not to further delay the meeting, I'm going to seek the permission of the registrar that we will promulgate the results of the election to our members hereafter. Mr. Office of the Registrar Representative, is that acceptable to you, sir? That similar to what we would have done last year. So we'll continue to count, and thereafter we will communicate with the membership what the results of the election today are. All right? So I thank you for your indulgence, and at this time, I would like to invite Mr. Ravoni Thomas Matthews. Ravon. To come and give the vote of thanks.
Honorable guests, specially invited speakers and presenters, to all our members and invitees who would have witnessed this momentous 58th Annual General Meeting. Good afternoon. It is my distinct pleasure to be here presenting the vote of thanks on behalf of the JDF Credit Union cohort. This staging of the Annual General Meeting was unlike any other, the first hybrid AGM held both virtually and physically. With this in mind, it would be remiss of me not to express heartfelt appreciation to everyone who made this nascent feat an overwhelming success. A big thank you to Commodore Gordon for her presentation on fiscal responsibility. It is indeed a topic of utmost importance, especially during this pandemic. It was truly informative, and we have surely gained invaluable knowledge from her sagely thoughts and advice. Of course, thanks and commendations are in order for all the teams that made this event possible. Team Registration, headed by Mrs. Peter Cooper. Team Health and Sanitization, headed by Ms. Morris Bartley. Team Hospitality, headed by Curlew Duncan. And Team Logistics, headed by Mrs. Booth. Their dedicated efforts creating a spectacle far greater than the sum of their individual parts. I extend thanks to all the amazing people who planned, decorated, and provided top-notch services for this event. Amongst the ranks of this distinguished cohort are the JDF for providing ample accommodations, Ms. Malab for lovely decorations, Mr. Frederick Beckford for lovely catering, and Mr. Alvin Reed and his team for seamless technical support. Furthermore, I would like to thank Major Stewart and 002 Edwards for their invaluable planning in this event, along with Mrs. Blake and her team. Lastly, I extend congratulations and thank yous to our board and committee members, management and staff, volunteers, specially invited guests, and all the members of the JDF Cooperative Credit Union. All your efforts are greatly appreciated. You are the well-oiled gears that keeps this machine turning. Stay strong as we remain resilient and strong together. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'd like to also add our thanks and our appreciation, reinforcing all that you would have just said. Thank you, Ms. Bernard. You have always been here with us. You continue to be here, and we really appreciate you and your presence. I think all would have been said, all would have been done. We really appreciate the effort and the diligence of all parties concerned, those mentioned, those not mentioned. We are very appreciative. Thank you, members online, members who are on the remote sites for participating in your general meeting. It is your general meeting, it is your credit union. And all that is left to be said is see you next year. All the best, and thank you very much. There being no other business, this meeting stands terminated. Thank you. Do we have the national anthem? Mr. Reed, do you have the national anthem? Thank you, thank you, thank you all. The leader cost me. We're off? We're off?
Let's make love.